Hi, my name is Dawn Isaac. I am Mary Kershane's oldest granddaughter. On my mom and nana's side, I am an Anishinaabe from Saugeen First Nation. And on my father's side, I'm of settler descent from the United Kingdom. So I'm really happy to be here today to talk to you a little bit about what I've been taught about blood memory from some of our elders. And to do that, I need to share a little bit about my own family story. And so it feels really good to be here on Treaty 1 territory and share some of these teachings with you. So I was taught that all of our ancestors believed that all the generations were woven together and were connected to each other like strands in a braid. So even though every one of us has our own, unique set of DNA, which basically is our own unique set of genes, kind of like a recipe that distinguishes who we are, it'll dictate whether we have blonde hair or brown eyes or blue eyes, whether we're tall, whether we're short. All of these genes were passed down to us from our parents and from our grandparents and from our great-grandparents. And within our DNA, all of these genes carry with them stories and experiences from the generations before us. So for thousands of years, our ancestors believed in something called blood memory. It wasn't until many, many centuries later that science caught up and learned that our genes actually do carry memories, but our ancestors believed this forever. And within each of the genes of our parents and of our grandparents, each of those genes has their own stories. So this is what scientists call cellular memory. So all of these cells within our bodies all carry with them experiences and the experiences of our ancestors. So whether these experiences were positive or whether these experiences were negative, they're all passed down to us and they all live within us. So blood memory, as our ancestors called it, existed forever. So we know that, when something bad happens to us or we have a negative experience like trauma, that trauma lives within our cells. And we pass down that trauma and that experience to the generations that come after us. So it's why our ancestors always believed that pregnant women needed to be in a non-stressful environment, that they needed to be looked after, because they knew that the experiences of the mom would be passed down to the baby. And so we know that, when our ancestors experienced, traumas like the history of colonization, the legacy of residential schools, all of those experiences are remembered by the generations that come after us. And it also, on the flip side, means that all of the experiences and amazing things that our ancestors had in terms of the connection to their culture and connection to land and connection to ceremony and teachings, all of those experiences were also passed down to us through our cells. So it's good and it's bad, and that's what blood memory is. Now, for myself, I grew up not really knowing who I was as an Indigenous person. In fact, I grew up in a really small racist town. You just didn't want to be Indigenous in this town. And kids would look at me and they would stare and they'd try to figure out what I was. And they'd always, think I was something different. So they'd say, "Are you part Japanese? Are you part Spanish?" And I would nod, with my head down, because it was better to be anything else other than being Indigenous, because I felt such a sense of shame at being Indigenous. And I didn't know why. I loved my family, but I felt that sense of shame. And it wasn't until many years later that I learned that my mom and my nana, and my grandfather, for that matter, generations attended residential school. And that meant that they were raised by people who didn't love them. In fact, they were raised by people that were there to teach them to hate themselves, to teach them that everything about being Indigenous was less than. Their brown skin, their language, their teachings, their ceremonies, their family, their community, that was less than, that was not good enough. And so as I got older, I realized that my family's pain and their shame and their self-hatred became my pain and my shame and my self-hatred because my body remembered that through those experiences and through the cellular memory. And this is what I learned was intergenerational trauma. But I also realized that, my Nana and my mom are very, very strong women. My Nana left the community to pursue an education degree with 7 kids in tow. She went on her healing journey to reconnect to who she was and to her teachings and her ceremonies. She always had her language, so she became a fierce protector of the Anishinaabe language. She dedicated her life to really leading this resurgence of language in schools, and she became a hero to so many people, myself included, in her life's work. My mom dedicated her entire life to becoming a social worker. So she dedicated her life to trying to dismantle a really racist system that is still designed to take Indigenous kids away from their families. She did that. And their strength and their resilience were passed down to me. So their survival and their strength and their resilience became my survival, my strength, and my resilience because of the memories that I have within myself of their positive experiences. So when I went on my healing journey, I was able to attend my first ceremony, my first sweat. Actually, it wasn't until my late 20s that I had that opportunity. And the second I heard the drum and I heard the singing and I heard the language, it's like my spirit opened up. It's like I was finally connected to who I was. And I had never had these experiences before, but yet my body responded as if my body remembered it. My body remembered it. And this is what I've learned is intergenerational resilience. We all have that inside of us. We all have that resilience inside of us. And so when I think about where we're going moving forward, we can look back and see that this Canada tried to destroy Indigenous people. They tried to take everything that made us Indigenous away from ourselves. Our land, our language, our ceremonies, our children, They took our children and put them into systems that were there to destroy the Indian and the child, Today, we still see so many colonial policies that are designed to keep Indigenous people down. But we're still here. We're still standing tall. We're seeing such an amazing movement towards transformative change. We're seeing a resurgence of our language, access to our ceremonies. We're seeing land-based learning. We're seeing language in the schools. We are changing people's perspectives. We're building allies. This is a healing movement, and this is what we see as intergenerational healing. And this resurgence is always been inside of us, and we're finally seeing that we're more than intergenerational trauma. We're resilience, we're healing, we're here. And we have leaders like my Nana to thank for that, and every single person that wants to walk side by side with us for this movement. And so I can see today, my spirit name is Rainbow Butterfly Woman. I am from Sagin First Nation, and I'm from the Bear Clan, and I am incredibly proud to be a Anishinaabe Kwe, an Indigenous woman. Chi Miigwech.